Hey there. Alright, so this is just going to be a ramble video. But I actually had an idea, like a topic in mind for this video. And it's going to be this. Okay, so, I think everyone's kind of been in a situation where, you've talked to your friends or your family or whatever, and you've talked about what you would do, what you would buy if you had like infinite money, right? Or like $1 billion, let's say, or something like that, If you were in a position where like money was no object, what would you buy? But I want to kind of do like a spin on that, and I want to talk about the things I would do if I had a lot of money, specifically regarding like business ventures, I guess. Like the things that you could accomplish with a lot of money, I guess. And I'd be interested to hear what you guys would do if you had a lot of money too. So you can feel free to leave a comment saying what it is you would do. But anyway, what I would do. All right, I've got a few things. All right. I don't know if anyone has ever done an escape room. It seems like they kind of got really popular kind of like right before the pandemic. And then the pandemic kind of destroyed escape rooms. I mean, they're still around, obviously, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to continue to kind of start growing again because the pandemic is over for the most part at this point. But yeah, they were like popping off. Like, I'd never heard of an escape room. I had no idea what that was until like, I don't know, like 2017 maybe. And then it was like everyone was talking about them. Like, I don't know. But they are really fun, in all honesty. It's cool to try and solve riddles and puzzles and things, especially when it's all like tangible, because when it's like when you're trying to solve a puzzle or like a riddle, just in like a book full of puzzles and riddles, it's like, it's just words on a page or whatever. It's not like, you still have to think about it, but it's just not as fun. But when you're like actually there and like interacting with objects and things, especially depending on like how in depth, they go, like how high quality the escape room is, they can be a lot of fun. Even the ones that aren't super like high end are still a good amount of fun. But if I had like unlimited money, I would love to design like extremely high-end escape rooms that just like go completely overboard. The problem with like all these ideas that I'm going to share in this video is that I don't think any of them would be like commercially viable. So you would basically be doing them with the knowledge that you're going to be losing money, probably a lot of money. But assuming it doesn't matter, I mean, I don't know. To say that money doesn't matter even when you're super rich, it's not really true, Even fucking Jeff Bezos, he has unlimited money, but he still would never do this because no one just wants to lose their money, I don't know. But for the sake of this video, we're just talking about it as if I don't care. I've got unlimited money, it doesn't matter. All right, so a few ideas. Just off the top of my head, my family and I have talked about this a good bit because we've done a few escape rooms and we enjoy them. And, you walk out of them and you have all these ideas. So, the first one, you're in a submarine that's like sinking or like out of control or something. I don't know. So you have to like get out of the submarine. Although, maybe it's more like you have to regain control of the submarine because it doesn't make sense that you would like leave the submarine if it's like 20,000 feet under the water, like that's not a good idea. But either way, you're in a submarine and I would want to obviously shape, I was going to say I would shape the room to be like a big tube, but I don't actually know that like submarines are actually like, obviously their exterior is tube shaped because of the properties of a circle. But I mean, depending on how big they are, the inside is still square because that's just what we're used to as humans, right? Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know. I guess it depends on like what size of submarine you're going for. I mean, if it's like a really small submarine, then, I assume the inside is at least somewhat oddly shaped compared to like a normal room, you know. But anyway, I would want to make it look like really good. I mean, that's like just a given, you know, like with any of these ideas that I have. The like atmosphere and the props and everything in the room, like absolute highest end possible. Like just it's basically like you just took a submarine and put it in a building and let people walk inside of it. That's what I would want it to be. Just like really, really high quality. You know, all the buttons, all the flickering lights and everything. But okay, so that's the idea. We're in a submarine and we're trying to, you know, that's whatever. But I would also love like a more interactive indication of like how much time you have remaining, because most escape rooms they operate on a 1 hour basis. So you go into the room, you have 60 minutes to get out of the room, right? I'm sure there's others that last longer, but I think an hour is typically what you see. But what they typically do is they just have like a big screen in each of the rooms, if it's like a multi-room escape room. And it just has like a clock on it that you can look at any point. It just says, okay, we've got 30 minutes left, we got 25 minutes left, whatever. But, you know, that doesn't like, it doesn't up the stakes. It's, I mean, obviously the closer you get to running out of time, the more like anxious you get because you want to win. But there's nothing in the room specifically that makes it seem like the tension is ramping up, you know, like you're getting closer and closer to failing. So with the submarine idea, it would be really cool if, you know, as like a built-in part of the room, you know, as the time winds down, like imagine like you wouldn't be able to do this part of it specifically, but like, you know, when you're watching a movie and there's like a submarine that's sinking in the ocean, and the lower it goes, the higher the pressure gets. So like rivets start popping off the wall and water starts spraying in from like the holes and stuff. Probably not that realistic to how a submarine would actually implode. I think it's pretty much just instantaneous, but it looks really cool and it would be a great indication. So I'm thinking like you would just have like pretty much like misters, as in like things that shoot mist, not like gentlemen. You would have misters that at like certain points they turn on and they just start spraying water into the room. You would have to like waterproof everything, and you'd also have to tell people to like, you know, take their wallet, take their phone out. Although typically I think escape rooms do ask you to take out your phone. Some of them allow you to keep them in your pocket, but I've been to some that ask you to like put them in a box before you enter the room. I guess so you can't cheat, or maybe it's so that you can't record the room or something. I don't know. But yeah, you could just do that so that they don't have anything on them. And I mean, obviously, when you're like signing up to do an escape room, you have to like get a time slot, you know? And so it'd be super easy to just tell people like, yeah, if you choose this one, you're gonna get wet. Unless you solve it really fast, which I guess is also possible. But yeah, that'd be super cool. So like as the time ticks down, like more and more of these misters turn on until like within like the last 5 minutes, it's just like water is spraying in from everywhere. That'd be super cool. It'd also be cool. I mean, this would be more challenging, but again, we're saying money is no issue. To like have I'm hand gesturing, but you probably can't see it, but to have like the room fill with water to like some extent. Obviously you wouldn't want people to actually get hurt or anything or drown. So this would potentially, I mean, you'd have to have them sign like a waiver probably for this thing. But to have the room filled with like maybe like 6 inches of water, that would be pretty dope. Yeah, so that's one of my ideas. As for like the puzzles and everything, I mean, it could just be standard escape room stuff where, you know, I mean, there's like so many different ways to do all that stuff. I'm focusing more on like the atmospherics of the game, not really the like actual puzzles. When it comes to the puzzles, I think most escape rooms that already exist do a good job. Some are more elaborate than others. Some are more interactive and more fun than others. But yeah, when it comes to the puzzles themselves, it doesn't really matter that much. I just want you to be like fully immersed in this idea that you're actually in a sinking submarine, you know. Some of the other ones my family and I came up with were like a mine shaft, like, you know, the elevators that they take to like get really deep into the ground where they like mine coal and stuff. I guess I don't even know what they do down there. That would be a good one. And you could actually like, if you built this in like a 4-story structure, like you have this big like 4-story warehouse, you could actually have it to where the people start up on like the top level, and then they like, or maybe they start on the bottom level and they work their way back to the surface potentially. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, that'd be cool to have like an actual like moving like thing, you know, so there's like this sense of like, oh, it's just like more involved, you know. Again, commercially viable, absolutely not, but really cool, yes. Because like I said, there are some escape rooms are just a single room, but I feel like a lot of escape rooms are like multi-room, where like you do some set of puzzles in like the starting room, and then like a door opens up and you get access to the next room. You know, stuff like that. So this would be that, but just vertical, so that like you get in your elevator and you go up one level, then you have to solve puzzles on that level, and then you go up one more level, you know. I think that'd be cool. What were some of the other ones we came up with? I forget. We had a lot of good ones. I'm really bad at remembering things. Apparently my memory just sucks. The submarine one was my idea, and I'm fond of it just because of it. Just seems like it'd be a good idea. I mean, I like it personally. I've been in an escape room that was like, it was like train, like you're on a train. I think it was like supposed to be like Murder on the Orient Express or whatever. Whatever that movie or book is, whatever. I think it was like themed around that. And it was good, but you could take it even further. You know, like I'm thinking like, you know, those simulator rides at amusement parks that like, you know, they're all on like a gimbal or like some kind of motion controlled system that you could like kind of keep the room moving a little bit so that it actually feels like you're on a train or something, you know. That'd be cool. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of ideas that like would be awesome in theory, but like even with infinite money, they would just be too dangerous to actually do in real life. Like one that comes to mind is like a skyscraper. Like you're not actually in a skyscraper, but imagine like a soundstage sort of, where like again you're in like a 4-story warehouse, and the escape room is this like structure in the middle of the warehouse that spans multiple stories, and then around the structure you've got just what looks like, you know, it's like a, what's that called? I don't know. Like it's just like a soundstage. So you got like a background, like a backdrop. There we go. You know, it just looks like a city, so that when you're in the middle structure, it actually looks like you're like looking out into a city of sorts, you know. And then it would be really cool if there were like parts of the escape room where like you repelled outside of like one of the windows or something to like get to another level. Again, super cool, but wildly dangerous. You could never ever do that, even if it was only like 1 story or 2 stories up. I mean, that'd just be way too dangerous. I feel like the other ones are totally doable. That one, a little too dangerous to actually do, even with infinite money. But it would still be pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. If you've done an escape room, let me know, because escape rooms are pretty fun, I gotta admit. But yeah, I don't, like I said, they kind of blew up, and then I think the pandemic kind of squashed them to a degree. That would really suck, honestly, if, because like I said, they were getting pretty big. I feel like everyone was talking about them, and then the pandemic hit. So like, imagine if you had like tried to capitalize on the escape room craze and like put a lot of money into an escape room business, like your own personal private escape room business, because there's like chains, there's like franchises in the escape room market, if you will. But if you just like did it yourself to try and capitalize on it, and then the pandemic hit and like no one is doing escape rooms anymore, that'd be rough. That would suck. Yeah. I'm trying to think of other escape room ideas, but I can't. I can't think of that many. Well, anyway, I'll just move on to the other ideas I have in general, outside of the scope of escape rooms. If money was no object, I would really want to create like a really high quality airsoft field. My brother and I have talked about this a lot, because we play airsoft, and oftentimes we'll walk away from a game being like, it was fun, but God, I wish the field was better, you know? Like, the field that we play at isn't that great, in all honesty. It's clear that not a lot of effort goes into like maintaining the field. So like, just from that perspective, like wanting to do like something really crazy, and like I get it, right? Like, it's expensive to just build shit on a bunch of land. And honestly, they probably don't make that much money. Just because there's not a ton of people around where I live, and the sport of paintball and airsoft is kind of niche to an extent. At least it's niche enough that I doubt that they're making like a ton of money, but I don't know. But yeah, if money was no object, I'd love to do that. The art of like level design, if you will, like map layout, especially in the context of like a shooting game or like a shooting sport like airsoft, or like video games like first person shooters and stuff, is a lot of fun to me. There was a game, I've tried to find it, but I can't find it. There was a game, it was a flash game on the computer back in like, I don't know, this would have been like late 2000s, maybe like 2007 to like 2010-ish. I mean, it probably still exists on the internet somewhere, but I'm just saying, like, that was when I found it. But it was this game that was like this top-down shooter. So like, you were this guy. I think you could play it. I'm pretty sure you could play it. I don't think it was like you just made the map and then the AI played it. But anyway, the point is, it was this top-down shooter, and it had this map editor. That was the best part. Like, it had like this like campaign, if you will, I guess, or like, it wasn't even really a campaign, I don't think. It just was like, it had like a couple like preset maps that you could just play on if you wanted to. But it also had a map creator where like it just gave you this big blank canvas, and you could put like cover, like you could put like brick walls here and like bushes here and stuff. It was the coolest game, simply because you could just make these different maps, and it was so fun to me as a kid, like just considering like, okay, so if I put a wall here, then someone can walk up to this, but then they're going to be exposed to these angles, so I need to put walls here and here, so that, like, you know, doing that is so much fun to me. And it was cool in that game because it was free, you know, you loaded up the game and you just built, right? In real life, obviously, if you want to do something like that, costs a lot of money. But if money was no object, that would be the most fun thing ever, I think. Honestly, I think I'd have more fun making the field, making the airsoft field, than I would actually playing on it. Because just like, the limitless possibilities of having infinite money. I mean, I would be making like entire like highways and stuff, full like 3-story buildings and things. It would be so fun to do that, to have unlimited money and just build a bunch of structures, and like to consider like, okay, if we put a building here, then we've got like to worry about these angles, and like to try and keep everything like competitively fair but still be like interesting. That'd be so fun. Another thing about airsoft fields in general, this doesn't just apply to the one that my brother and I play at, because you see it quite often, is that, and I mean, again, I understand it. It's a cost-saving measure because, again, these places, even if they're popular in their area, probably still don't even make that much money, just because the sport of paintball and airsoft is kind of niche, like I said. But a lot of what you see is like just plywood structures or big concrete, like tubes and like bricks and stuff. Like, it's just cover for the sake of cover, you know. I would want it, again, kind of going back to what I was saying about the escape room stuff. I would want it to actually be themed. I would want it to look like a real place, you know. I wouldn't want it to just be a bunch of plywood structures. I would want it to actually look like a building and have like an interior with like furniture and stuff inside. That would be so cool. So expensive, because I mean, at that point you're basically just building a city. Even if it's like not that big, you're still building like a small town, basically. It would be ridiculously expensive, but it would be so cool. Yeah, that would be incredible. It would take a long time too, just for sake of constructing it. I mean, you would have to employ like construction builders. Like, you would be building a small town, so it would take a long time. I guess on the benefit of doing it as just airsoft is that you wouldn't have to worry about stuff like plumbing, because you don't need running water or anything. I mean, obviously you would want like water stations around your field so that people stay hydrated, but typically you put those in like the dead zones, and you can just do like a water cooler. It's not a big deal. So you wouldn't need plumbing in any of the buildings. You would probably want electricity, at least in some of the buildings. And if I'm fully imagining, you know, my perfect airsoft field, it would incorporate a lot of like electrical components. So like I'm imagining, you know, in a video game, let's take like Battlefield for instance, like in Conquest, you know, you're there's like 5 points across the map, and you're trying to capture those objectives, right? And when you go to an objective, you just stay in the area of the objective and you capture it. And if there's enemies in it, you have to have more friendlies than there are enemies in order for you to like actually make progress with it, you know, that kind of thing. The field that my brother and I play at kind of works in the same way, where like, you know, there's objectives all over the map, and like they can either be held by your friendly team or the enemy team. But when it comes to like owning that point, owning that objective, it's just determined by a single flag that any player can go up and flip to the other side. And it's just like an instantaneous action. So like a single player could do it, and they could even do it like if there were enemies nearby, you know, because like in Battlefield, one soldier can't capture a point if there's like 3 enemies on it, you know, because the enemies outnumber the one guy. So in like my perfect world, in my perfect airsoft game, I'm imagining a situation where you have objectives all over the map, but then you have like on each objective there's like a button, right? Well, multiple buttons. You would have like button stations, I guess. And so on these button stations, there's like a red button and a blue button. And depending on what team you're on, you press that button. And there's like a screen on this button station that like shows you your progress of like capturing that point, you know, like a video game. And if there's other players on the enemy side pressing the buttons, like on the other stations, then you're not going to be able to capture that point just pressing one button, you know. So like say there's like 5 button stations per point per objective, right? You would like just capturing the zone of like one of those button stations wouldn't be enough. Like as a team, you would have to push up enough to have control of a majority of the button stations in order to capture an objective. Doing stuff like that would be really cool. I mean, there's a lot of other things you could do as well. Some kind of like there was a fuzzy. I think that was a fuzzy. I don't know what that was. A ghost, maybe. I don't believe in ghosts. Having some sort of system where you could like look at a map on like your phone or something and see like where your allies are would be pretty cool. I think there is like some kind of app that actually does do that. But it is like a third-party app that has to be supported by your like field, in terms of like, you know, everyone has to be on board with like agreeing to use this system in order to make it actually function the way it's intended to, which I don't know, maybe easier than it seems, but it would be cool to just have that as like a part of the field. I mean, there's a few ways you could do it. You could just give everyone like a device that just tracks their location using like Bluetooth or something, or I don't even know how you would do it. And that way you just like have a constant idea of like where people are. That would be cool. There's so many different things you could do with infinite money when it comes to like airsoft and like making the game play really like interestingly. Like that's the thing. It's like airsoft is fun as it is right now, but it's just incredibly basic, especially when like it depends on your motivations, right? My brother and I have agreed that, you know, a big part of our motivations for getting into airsoft originally was that we kind of wanted to play a video game in real life. You know, you play Call of Duty, you play Battlefield, and those are fun games, but like you want to be there, right? And I don't want to be in a real war because I don't want to die. And real war isn't fun like Battlefield and Call of Duty. Real war is boring as hell or scary as hell. There's no in between. So yeah, I think we wanted to play like a video game in real life, but airsoft doesn't really play like that. And I don't think it's necessarily because it's impossible. I think it's just because it's super expensive. I think we have the technology required to make airsoft play like a video game in real life. It would just be insanely expensive, but it would be so cool to do it. There's also trouble with airsoft in particular when it comes to cheating and stuff, because like when you give each individual person like, you know, the option to play however they want, and that can include not calling their hits, or the more complex you make the game, the more opportunities you give people to cheat by like doing something or not doing something, you know. And at the same time, like, complexity is cool because it allows you to do more things, but it can also kind of detract from an experience if you take it too far, because like suddenly things become just too complicated, too like hard to understand. It's like, okay, can I do this? Can I do, like in airsoft right now, it's very simple. You understand that like, okay, there's objectives we have to take. I can shoot people, they can shoot me, and that's basically it. It's a very simple game. But I do think there was a sweet spot, honestly, between like having it be as simple as it is right now and having it be too complex. I think there is a middle ground where it's like you add a bit of capability that most people can understand, and that like makes the game more engaging, gives people different ways to like interact with the game itself, and doesn't take it too far, you know. I think that'd be really cool. But again, insanely expensive. And as for its commercial like appeal, probably pretty bad, I imagine. Because yeah, that's the other thing. A lot of airsoft fields also serve as paintball fields, simply because they're pretty similar sports. So it makes sense that, you know, if there's people that only like paintball or there's people that only like airsoft, if your field allows people to play both, then you make potentially double the money, right? Because you appeal to both parties, right? I get it, but as a person that's not into paintball but is into airsoft, I'm not a huge fan of fields that allow both paintball and airsoft, because there's just paint everywhere. And that kind of goes back to me wanting, you know, the field to be more immersive in the sense that like it has a theme, it has like it's not just a bunch of plywood barriers, like it's actual buildings and it's actual like interiors and it's actual like city streets and like broken down cars and things, you know, like more effort is put into it. And I wouldn't want that to get ruined by having a bunch of paint splatters everywhere. I mean, arguably BBs can also ruin that because the BBs just lay around depending on like, you know, it's not that noticeable when you're in like an outdoor field, but if you're on an indoor field, there's just a bunch of BBs all over the floor and stuff. I mean, you can vacuum them up between games, but they'll accumulate regardless. There's downsides to both sides, but yeah, as an airsoft player, I am less into the whole look of paintball fields because they just get so messy. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of other like business ventures I would do with infinite money. It's hard to say, really. Um, I guess like make a video game. That would be cool too. Just to have infinite money, I could just hire like all of the best when it comes to like, you know, 3D artists, coders and shit, you know, like programmers. I don't know who those people are, but I could offer them a lot of money to make a really good game, hopefully. I don't know. um, but I've already talked about making video games in a previous video, so I won't go too much into that right now. Not to mention, at that point, it's less about me and more about the team, you know. I feel like I would have a lot less input in a situation where we're making a game simply because I don't know how to do that. I mean, arguably, I don't know how to construct buildings and stuff, but I could still design the layout of the airsoft field, or I could design the interior of the escape room, you know, even though I'm not the one doing it. I guess with the video game idea, I could, you know, I would be like the idea guy. But there's anyone can be an idea guy, you know. I want to play a little bit more of a role than that, I think. So I wouldn't bring much to the table in that regard. I mean, I know how to 3D model, obviously, but I'm not the greatest at it by any means, and that's like a total of 5% of what goes into making a game. If even that, I don't even know. There's a lot more to it than just that, so yeah. Anyways, that's what I would do with infinite money. Those are some of my ideas. I probably have others. Again, memory kaput. I can't think of anything. But let me know what you guys would do with infinite money, specifically regarding like business venture. Like, I don't want to know what you would buy. Everyone, oh, I'd buy a private jet, I'd buy a yacht, I'd buy all this clothes, I'd buy jewelry, I'd buy technology, I'd buy like a $10 billion gaming PC, I'd buy like the biggest TV money. Like, okay, yes, I get it. We'd all buy super expensive shit if we could. But I want to know, like, what do you want to do? You know, like, what are the things you want to accomplish with infinite money? That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, let me know if you feel like it. I mean, you don't have to, I guess, but you could, and it'd be cool. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.